All right. And this is a warning, right? And y'all going to start to see more of this, unfortunately, because God sent his people to warn. The grace period is running out for a lot of people. What we saw with Angie Stone, how you get on a bus with nine people? And I don't have all the statistics and all that. 9 people, and you the only one that perished. Oh, baby. And you bow down to Zeta. Oh, see, the grace period is running out for people.
The passing of Angie Stone left a hole that words alone could not express. When D'Angelo stood up to honor her at her funeral, no one was prepared for what was about to unfold. It wasn't just a performance, it was an outpouring of deep emotion, grief, and appreciation wrapped in one unforgettable moment. As D'Angelo sat at the piano, every single person in the room could feel it. Fans, celebrities, and even those who thought they could keep their composure were overcome with emotion. Tears filled the room, and in that instant, the loss of Angie Stone became more than just the death of an artist, it was the end of an era. Angie Stone was not just a singer, she was a storyteller. Her voice was a defining force in R&B and soul music for decades. When she passed away, it felt like something irreplaceable was lost, a piece of music history that celebrated raw emotion, authenticity, and the power of deeply personal lyrics. Fans flooded social media with tributes, sharing memories of how her music helped them through heartbreak, gave them strength in tough times, or simply made them feel seen. The music industry also mourned her loss. Icons like Erykah Badu, Jill Scott, and India Ari expressed their sadness, calling Angie an icon, a queen, and a true voice of the people. Even younger artists who had been influenced by her work, like H.E.R. and Janelle Monáe, took a moment to reflect on the profound impact she had on their lives and careers. But no one felt this loss more deeply than D'Angelo. He and Angie were not just colleagues, they were kindred spirits in music. Their connection went beyond admiration, it was rooted in mutual respect and years of collaboration. Angie played a crucial role in D'Angelo's early career, seeing potential in him long before the world did. She mentored him, helping him find his unique sound and even co-writing songs on his debut album Brown Sugar, which would go on to define the neo-soul movement. Her influence was woven throughout his music. The way she blended pain and passion into her lyrics, the honesty she brought to her craft, and her deep love for classic soul all made their mark on D'Angelo's work. Despite his rise to fame, D'Angelo never forgot Angie's role in his journey.
Right now, the only thing that they putting out is stuff that is self-genocide, killing the people.
Even as a legend in his own right, he always credited her with being a guiding force in his life. She wasn't just a mentor to him, she was family. And that's why her death hit him so hard. It wasn't just the loss of an artist he admired, it was the loss of someone who had believed in him from the very start. D'Angelo, known for being a private person, didn't respond to Angie's death the way many people might have expected. In a time when everyone seemed to be rushing to social media to express their grief, D'Angelo remained silent. He didn't post any tributes or make any public appearances. His decision to retreat into silence spoke volumes. Those closest to him understood that this loss was deeply personal and painful. Angie wasn't just a friend or a mentor, she was one of the few people who truly understood D'Angelo, both as an artist and as a person. D'Angelo had always processed pain through his music, but he was also known for stepping away from the spotlight when life became too overwhelming. This wasn't the first time loss had shaped his life. In the past, he struggled with the deaths of loved ones, and each time, the grief seemed to pull him further into isolation.
Out of it, and I was holding her hand and she was wobbling around, and I said, baby, you gotta sit down. And then the next thing I know, I flew and I fell down to the ground, and it felt like something not ran over me but brushed over me. Like something just swiped over my body, and I got up and I could hear screaming.
His long absences from the music scene weren't just about perfectionism, they were about needing time to heal. Losing his grandmother in the early 2000s, for example, was one of the reasons he disappeared from the industry for several years. His battles with addiction and depression were often traced back to unhealed emotional wounds. Music had always been D'Angelo's way of working through pain, and this time was no different. While the public didn't hear from him, those closest to him knew that he was grieving in the only way he knew how, by turning inward and letting the emotions build up until they found their way into his music. The funeral was not just a time to mourn Angie's passing, it was also a celebration of her life and everything she gave to the world. The church was filled with family, friends, musicians, and fans who had traveled from far and wide to pay their respects. The atmosphere was heavy with sorrow, but it was also filled with love. Gospel choirs filled the space with music that resonated with both sadness and joy. The service wasn't just about mourning, it was about honoring the way Angie lived passionately, with soul, and with a voice that could move mountains. Some of the biggest names in R&B and soul shared their memories of Angie. Jill Scott spoke about how Angie paved the way for artists like herself. Erykah Badu talked about their deep sisterhood in music. India Ari broke down in tears, calling Angie the backbone of the neo-soul movement. Angie's family shared heartfelt stories, reminding everyone of her warmth, her laughter, and the love she poured into everything she did. The audience laughed at funny stories, wiped away tears during the emotional moments, and nodded in agreement as people spoke about how Angie's music would live on forever. But there was one moment that stood out above all: the moment D'Angelo took the stage. When he walked up to the piano, there was an almost tangible silence in the room. Everyone could feel that something powerful was about to happen. D'Angelo sat down at the piano, paused for a brief moment, as though gathering the strength to play, and then the first few notes rang out. The weight of his grief was immediately felt. His voice, raw and full of emotion, cracked slightly as he began to sing. It was clear that he was barely holding it together, but that only made the moment more profound. The song D'Angelo chose was deeply personal. Some believed he performed Heaven Must Be Like This, a song that perfectly captured the bittersweet feelings of losing someone yet believing they are in a better place. Others thought he might have chosen a song they had shared, one that carried the memories of late-night studio sessions, deep conversations about life, and the unspoken bond between two artists who truly understood each other.
I grew up together. We were children. We went on the choir together. She introduced me to her church choir, and I went there with her. And we would go down to Concora House and eat dinner after church. In the neighborhood, we would come together and we would just do our little thing. Now, y'all know what young people do.
Regardless of the song, it wasn't just a performance, it felt like a final conversation with Angie. Every note, every lyric felt like D'Angelo was speaking directly to her, saying all the things he never had the chance to say. The way he closed his eyes, the tremble in his voice, and the way his fingers pressed into the piano keys all communicated a deep sense of loss. It was clear that the music was coming straight from his soul. The audience couldn't contain their emotions. Jill Scott was wiping tears from her face with a tissue. Erykah Badu had her head down, eyes closed, taking in every note. Angie's family held hands, offering each other support. Even those who had witnessed countless emotional performances in their careers were visibly moved. When D'Angelo finished, he didn't say a word. He simply stood up from the piano, and the silence in the room spoke volumes. He didn't need to say anything, the music had said it all. Within minutes of D'Angelo's performance, clips of the tribute began to circulate online. Fans flooded social media with their reactions, many expressing how moved they were by the raw emotion of the performance. One person commented, "I have never seen a performance so full of pain and love. You could feel his heartbreak." Another said, "D'Angelo gave the most heartbreaking tribute I've ever witnessed. Angie Stone deserved that kind of love." A third wrote, "This is why Angie will never be forgotten. Her music was soul in its purest form." Fellow artists also shared their grief online. Erykah Badu posted a black and white photo of Angie, calling her forever our queen. Maxwell wrote, "No words, just love. Rest easy, Angie." Questlove shared a video of Angie performing one of her classic songs, saying, "We lost a legend, but her music will never die." The response was overwhelming. D'Angelo's tribute wasn't just a performance, it was a moment in history. It reminded everyone of the power of music to heal, to connect, and to help people express what words alone cannot. In that church, on that day, D'Angelo and everyone who loved Angie Stone were able to say goodbye in the only way that felt right, through music. The funeral service for Angie Stone was a moment that felt almost too heavy to bear. While the sadness of her passing hung over everyone who gathered, the celebration of her life, artistry, and legacy was what carried the room through. The musicians, the fans, the family, and friends, all of them shared in the grief, but they also shared in the pride of having known and been touched by Angie. Her influence was far-reaching, and her music had been a constant companion for so many people. Whether it was the power of her voice, the stories she told through her lyrics, or the way she brought raw emotion into every note, Angie Stone was more than just a star, she was a force. D'Angelo's tribute was the most powerful example of how deeply Angie had impacted everyone around her, but especially him. The two had not only worked together but had forged a personal bond over the years that made D'Angelo's grief even more intense. They shared a love for music that transcended simple collaboration. They were like two halves of the same soul, each feeding off the other's energy and creativity. Angie had seen the potential in D'Angelo before the world did, and she had taken him under her wing, guiding him through the ups and downs of his early career. He had always spoken highly of her, calling her a mentor, a guide, and, in many ways, a second mother to him. To lose her was not just to lose a collaborator, it was to lose a person who had helped shape the very artist he had become. For D'Angelo, music was always the vehicle through which he processed his emotions. He used his music to work through difficult moments in his life, and losing Angie was no exception. His silence in the days following her death was telling. While others expressed their sorrow through social media posts and public tributes, D'Angelo retreated into himself. It wasn't because he didn't feel the pain, it was because he felt it so deeply, and his way of dealing with it was through introspection. He needed time to grieve privately, and then, when he was ready, he would express that grief through his music, as he had done before. The tribute at Angie's funeral was exactly that, a personal, emotional release for D'Angelo. When he sat at the piano, the air in the room seemed to freeze. Everyone knew this was going to be something special, but no one could have predicted the depth of emotion that D'Angelo would pour into his performance. As the first notes of the song rang out, it became clear that this was not just a song, it was D'Angelo's heart on display. The rawness of his voice, the tremor in the air, and the way his fingers caressed the piano keys all spoke volumes about the pain he was feeling.